Welcome, listeners, to another lecture. I'm Professor Alexei. Our topic today dives deep into the shadows of cinematic history. Nosferatu, a symphony of horror.
And I'm Priyanka. Today we'll explore this silent film's pioneering role in shaping horror and vampire fiction.
It's important to understand that Nosferatu, created in 1922, was not just an ordinary film of its time. Rather, it stood as a groundbreaking piece within German Expressionism. This art movement, as some may know, emphasized visual distortion and deep emotional undercurrents, a raw representation of the era's anxieties.
Basically, we might consider Nosferatu as a turning point. It's where vampire mythos gained a new dimension on screen, especially by introducing the lethal power of sunlight, which changed how vampires were portrayed forever.
Indeed. Nosferatu became essential in transforming vampire lore and laid the foundation for horror as we perceive it today. However, it's crucial to understand the legal turmoil surrounding its inception, particularly the copyright disputes with Bram Stoker's estate. These issues led to a significant, albeit unintended, influence on future adaptations. Let's transition to another aspect here.
I'm curious about those legal issues. I think they kind of shaped how adaptations are approached even now. It makes me wonder why Nosferatu's impact is still felt so strongly.
Let's proceed by exploring some intriguing facts. Nosferatu is notorious for being an unauthorized adaptation of Dracula. It was the first to depict the fatal susceptibility of vampires to sunlight, a transformative contribution to the genre. Yet, its visual style, particularly Count Orlok's appearance, has sparked ongoing debate due to evoking anti-Semitic imagery, reflecting conscious or unconscious stereotypes of the time.
Historically, it's interesting that the film's events are set in 1838 in Wisborg, a fictional place that mirrors fears of foreign invasion back then. Then, in 1922, Nosferatu premiered in a Germany rife with legal challenges, kind of ironic. More recently, in 2019, it entered the public domain, opening it up like never before.
In conclusion, my personal connection to Nosferatu lies in its masterful manipulation of atmospheric tension and cultural symbolism, something that, in our academic pursuits, we continually strive to decode and appreciate. This brings us to the critical questions we aim to explore today. Why does Nosferatu continue to hold relevance? Our first deep dive today is into how Nosferatu innovated vampire mythology. Prior to its creation, vampire lore did not include the vulnerability to sunlight. By conceptualizing it as fatal, Nosferatu added an innovative layer to the narrative. This invention, you see, reshaped the tension inherent in subsequent vampire stories.
Can we say that this new trait also impacted how stories were structured around vampires? Maybe it encouraged writers to explore new ways to portray weakness and conflict.
Precisely. The vulnerability to sunlight introduced not only heightens dramatic tension, but also invites a profound reconsideration of the narrative potential and imaginative scope in vampire fiction, pushing creative adaptations to new heights. Let's shift focus now. Next, we shall explore the contentious theme of antisemitism in Nosferatu. While some argue it was not an intentional framework, given director F.W. Murnau's possible associations and perspectives, there remains the complexity of interpreting Orlok's presentation and characteristics in light of prevailing prejudices of the era.
Isn't it interesting how these themes intertwine with the director's own life? I often think Murnau's personal connections could provide some insight into whether these elements were intentional or just sort of reflective of the time's attitudes.
Indeed, our examination should take into account the nuanced interpretations of Murnau's personal and professional contexts, suggesting a framework where intentional bias is neither purely affirmed nor denied, thereby encouraging further scholarly inquiry into societal influences reflected unconsciously in art. Finally, as we consider the ongoing relevance of Nosferatu, it's foundational in shaping horror films, a visionary template that transcends its original era. Its lingering influence invites us to question not only the evolving portrayal of vampires, but also the themes of fear that resonate today as profoundly as they did a century ago.
Maybe it's just me, but I find it fascinating how certain elements like fear of the unknown or societal breakdowns still connect with audiences. It kind of shows the timelessness of those fears.
Of course, this film's depiction of dread and the outsider's threat enriches our understanding of evolving cultural narratives, offering fertile ground for further study, particularly in how German Expressionism intersects with modern horror cinema, and how societal fears are manifesting in current narratives. As we conclude today's lecture, let's recap the unique place Nosferatu holds in film history. its crucial invention of vampire mythos elements, the contentious interpretations of its themes, and its ongoing cultural impact. These insights beckon further study into the lineage of German Expressionism and the evolution of vampire fiction.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration. I'm grateful for the insights we've covered today, especially in understanding how these historical narratives influence modern creativity.
And thank you for listening. Until next time, let us continue to delve deep into the shadows and secrets of history and cinema, seeking knowledge and understanding with scholarly fervor.